Welcome back to the Ball Does Lie podcast, your one-stop shop for daily NBA content. My name is Amir. I'm with my co-host Brendan. So Brendan, we talked about the Toronto Raptors earlier in the season, and we were questioning like how are they a top 3 seed at the time when we filmed an episode. And the Toronto Raptors are still quietly one of the best stories in the Eastern Conference right now. They've only dropped 1 seed. They're 4th in the East, so they're still a home court team. If the season ended today, they're playing confident basketball. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They're not winning by accident. So what do you think? Do you buy them as a real top 4 team, or are you selling them off as a great regular season run and a team that can probably cool off and finish like in the top 6? I still think they're going to finish in the top 6. When we first had this conversation, I'm like, dude, these guys are going to just, it's the hot streak. They're probably going to finish like 6 through 9, and all the Raptors fans cooked me in the comments. So, but they're still playing good, dude. They're still playing good, and I like them actually. Like I actually do respect their style of play. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think they'll cool off, or do you think they'll be a top 4 team by the end of the year?
No, I think they'll stay in this race. I think the 4 to 6 race is kind of what we're looking at now. The Knicks have had a horrible stretch, so maybe the Knicks kind of fall into this mix as well. But right now, the Raptors, Magic, and Cavs are all kind of grouped up in that 4 to 6 range. The Cavaliers, I think they're going to have to find a way to hold them off because they're finally starting to shape into the team I think we all expected them to be to start the year. But the Raptors have just been very consistent in their winning. 6-4 in their last 10. And they've gone kind of on a win-loss streak here in their last 4. But, playing good teams, beating good teams, and just competing every night. I think they're legitimate. Now, do I think they can make the finals in the Eastern Conference? Not quite sure about that. But if I'm any team in the East, I don't want to match up with the Raptors. They're such a bitch to play. Like defensively, they just beat you down. And then offensively, they just have a bunch of different weapons with guys that don't necessarily need the ball all the time. So their offensive actions are a lot harder to guard. Whether it's Ingram coming on pin downs, hitting his little 15-footers, or Scotty just kind of organically creating plays in his kind of weird herky-jerky type of game that he has. But I think the Raptors are dangerous. I wouldn't want to see him in the East at all. And things get weird up north. So as a Heat fan, I know you just said you do respect them. Do you think there's someone you would like to see in the playoffs potentially if you guys make it? Like what would be that sentiment from you?
Playoffs, the way the Miami Heat are playing, just tank for one time in your goddamn life. Freaking stuck in the middle, two.
Heat culture will never allow it. They're 8th right now.
So dumb sometimes, man.
They're not going to do it.
I love it and I hate it. You know what I mean? Like I more so love it, but there's just like times where the writing is on the wall where like it's better to take a few steps back and kind of restart. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of good teams have done it. Good organizations like the San Antonio Spurs, for example, and of course the Thunder. The Thunder, like, we're obviously a good organization in the past. Obviously, getting very lucky being able to draft 3 amazing players back in the day with Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. Like, so they've always been a good organization. And then of course Presti coming in has just been dominant. But the Raptors are definitely better than the Heat this year. But I'm not sold on them being a top 4 team right now. Even if they are a top 4 team, I still don't think they're a contender in the East because, like, I'll push back. You said they've beaten some good teams lately. Like which good teams? They just lost to the Clippers. They beat the Pacers, who are horrible. They lost to the Sixers. They beat the Sixers. They lost to the Celtics.
Are a good team.
They're fine, but like they beat the Hornets. They beat the Hawks twice. Like, okay, those teams suck. Like they lost.
They beat the Magic. The Magic are a team that's kind of right in their wheelhouse. I think the Warriors, you consider them a solid team. They have good wins on their.
They have some good wins. They beat the Warriors, Magic, but they lost to the Wizards. They lost to the Nets. They lose to the Celtics. They beat the Bucks. The Bucks suck. They beat the Heat. The Heat suck. They lost to the Knicks. They lost to the Celtics. They lost to the Hornets. They lost to the Lakers. Like they beat the Trailblazers. They lost to the Knicks. They lost to the Hornets. They beat the Pacers. Like that seems so mediocre to me at this point right now. Like I don't think they haven't played a lot of the top echelon teams. And when they do, I guarantee if I look at it, it's like the Miami Heat. They're better than the Miami Heat. They're probably beating more of the bad teams. But with the Miami Heat, sorry to bring this back to the Heat, they're like 7-16 against teams that are 500 and above. I bet you if you look at the Toronto Raptors, they're probably like 11-16 against the teams that are above 500, based on me just looking at the last like month or so of basketball. Would you agree with that? Like, I don't think I think they're beating some of the better teams at a higher frequency than other teams are. They're only 6 games or whatever it is above 500. But here, let's take that back. Their defense is so phenomenal. So I'll give them some kudos before the Raptors players cook me. Like their defensive rating is 5th. They have continued to be a top 5 defensive rated team, which is very important. Their offensive rating has fallen too. Since the last time we did that video, they were, again, like I said, they were like top 10 in offensive rating. Now they're 18th right now, which is not great, but they're still a team like the Miami Heat, who are 4th in defensive rating, 20 something in offensive. They're very similar. Their bread and butter is on defense. Colin Murray Boyles is freaking amazing. His motor is awesome. He's one of the best young defenders in the NBA. Him and Scotty Barnes are the best defensive duo in the NBA according to defensive rating. So I'll give them kudos there. They have a lot of good pieces. Like, they're a fun team to watch. Scotty is an all-star. Brandon Ingram was such a good gamble so far. He's been amazing. Quickly has been great. RJ Barrett has been great. But the issue is their offense. Their offense has fallen a lot since we last did our video a month ago. They're 23rd in points per game right now. When we were doing this, when we did our first video, what were they, Brendan? Top 5 in points per game?
Yeah,
Top 6?
they were definitely top 10. They were top 10.
Top 10. They're 24th in 3-point makes. They're 28th in 3-point percentage. Like, I don't, like, again, they've won a lot, I'm assuming, against teams that are below 500. Like, what's their record against teams that are above 500? Have they beat a lot of good teams? Like, I'm not sure they have. So
yeah, we'll need to crunch those numbers. I will say their strength of schedule based on Tankathon here has them so far at 6th type of schedule that they've had to play. So, up to this point, I think they've played a decent amount of playoff teams, decent amount of contending teams, and here they are still sitting 4th in the East. So I think they're a little bit more stable than maybe you probably see them as. But again, I could see them slipping to that 6th spot quickly just because of how well the Magic and the Cavs have looked in the last few weeks. But I don't see them slipping past that. And I think the Raptors are at least that real, where they're definitely avoiding the play-in. I don't think that's a question. And I think I personally, I think I could see them hosting a first-round playoff series. I think that's definitely in the cards for them, depending on how Cleveland starts to shape out here. Now, the numbers you mentioned on offense are definitely a concern. But when you're a team that has a defensive identity and you can lean back on that, I think it's a little bit more, not necessarily okay, but you can see your offense come and go in waves and know that you're still going to be in these games just because you can rely on the defensive output you guys can give. But I think Quickly has been incredible for them. I expect him to play a little bit better to help raise their offensive ceiling. And then a lot of this is going to ride on Scotty Barnes, their all-star, which makes sense. So it's kind of he goes, they go offensively, and he's been a little up and down. But
come back down to earth. His shooting percent, his 3-point shooting has come back down to earth. But
yeah,
I like Scotty Barnes. Like, he's a fun player to watch. Like, his
just different. He's a different type of player.
Like a mini Giannis, really cool. Kind of. You know what I mean? He's like a mini Giannis. Like, he could be like the next Giannis, in my opinion.
And again, a great defensive player that helps really.
That's what I mean.
To their identity.
Like, Giannis can't shoot for shit. Like, and he's already shooting at 32%. Like, on decent volume. Like, he's not like, he knows his skill set. He's not shooting 6 threes a game. He will maybe eventually as he progresses. He's taking 3.5 attempts a game and he's shooting 33%. Like, that's solid. Get that to 35 and he's a problem. If you get that to 35%, he's not averaging 19.5 points per game. He's averaging 22 points per game. Like, he reminds me of like a Giannis, a little smaller, right? Isn't he a little bit smaller? He's like 6'8". Giannis is like 6'10", 6'11". But like,
this is basically a 7-footer.
Yeah.
That's what he seems like.
Scotty is a freaking beast, dude. You know what I mean? If he was a little bit taller, he'd probably be averaging like 11 rebounds per game if he wasn't really playing as like a wing. Like, he's one of my favorite. I don't watch the Toronto Raptors, so cook me over here. Like this is an NBA podcast. Yes, obviously. Like, I do some research. I don't watch all the games. I don't have time. I have a kid. I'm sorry, but Scotty Barnes is probably my favorite player on the Raptors, honestly. So
yeah, that makes sense. So real quick before we end here, trade deadline's coming up. Raptors are sitting 4th. Do you think they should be buyers here before this deadline? Do they make a move to make a run here? And so yes. Are there any doesn't need to be a perfect trade. We don't need to match contracts. Let's not talk about the apron. Who's someone that you think the Raptors could use to actually legitimately make them a bona fide contender in the Eastern Conference.
Anthony Davis, you put him in you put him in bubble wrap and you put him behind the glass, whatever thing, and break in case of emergency, whatever, and you basically sit AD out. Anyway, he's already hurt. He's going to be out for a month anyway. You sit him out for an extra 2 weeks so that you have him for the last month of the season and you have him for that playoff push. I think Podol is amazing. He's a great player, but he's a guy who's going to get you like 10 and 8. Like adding an Anthony Davis, who's also going to be available for a cheaper cost. Like it's crazy how available a lot of these all-stars or former all-stars are compared to the past, right? Guys like Rudy Gobert going for 6 first-round picks, that's not going to happen. Like AD is affordable because of his injury history right now at this point, especially. So, and he's been linked to them. Like I think Scotty Barnes, Ingram, quickly, and AD could be pretty fun. And like adding AD to the East as well. Like I don't know what their risk tolerance is because that dude literally is.
He's an injury waiting to happen every play. And it's a different injury every time. And as a guy who loves AD, it sucks because I do love watching him play, but it's something different every time. And you're just holding your breath when he's on the floor because you're just waiting for that shoe to drop. Well, the Raptors.
Fit, though? What do you think about his fit?
No, I think he fits perfectly. I think if you can update the Pirtle spot, and again, like Pirtle, just like you did, but if you can basically swap out Pirtle for AD, then the Raptors just become a legitimate contender in the East. And I think everyone needs to take a bit more seriously. So I like the fit.
What do you?
Well, they own all their picks for the next 7 years. So they have plenty of draft capital they could throw at the Mavericks, and I think the Mavericks would welcome every draft pick they can grab.
Give it RJ Barrett and Dick, maybe Grady Dick, keep Podol off the bench.
I think you're gonna have to. I think RJ for sure is probably going to be in that package. I would imagine. I think you try to do whatever you can to keep quickly. I think he works really well for them.
Yep.
And then just see how many picks you can put in there. If you're really making a run,
two picks.
You don't care too much about your next 2 picks in 2027, 2028. So I think it'd be interesting. Now, if AD could stay healthy, that's always the big if with AD. But I'd love to see it. I'd like to see the Raptors add them. I think that would make the East extremely fun, and it's already a pretty big jumbled mess, and this would just throw a whole new wrench into the whole operation.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, Amir. Well, we're out of time there. Want to thank you for joining us here on the Ball Does Live podcast, and thank you everybody watching. If you do like the content, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.